Hello everybody and welcome to the fourth video in a series of videos I'm doing where I look at my favourite protest songs from the Vietnam era. Today what I'm going to be looking at is a song by Creedence Clearwater Revival called Fortunate Son. Fortunate Son appeared on the album Willie and the Blind Boys in 1969, and it is just an absolute classic song. The motivation behind the song came when David Fogarty, the lead singer of the Creedence Clearwater Revival band, heard about a wedding between the daughter of Richard Nixon and the son of former President Dwight D. Eisenhower, and he kind of got the feeling that a lot of us get, that there seems to be this elite that is among us that live by a different set of rules. So at the time there was a draft going on in America where people were being drafted into the war, and the poor really couldn't avoid this draft. If they were called up to war, they had to go. Whereas the rich could avoid it. I think point in case would be Donald Trump, who avoided having to serve in Vietnam by getting a doctor's cert for something like bone spurs in his shins or something ridiculously made up like that. So Fogarty saw this different set of rules for the elite, and really with its pointing out of the preferential treatment that the elite get, it points to issues that have become even more prevalent in society today, which I think makes the song somewhat prophetic in kind of predicting the future. It's important to remember that at this time, this was the time of the civil rights movement, time of the feminist movement, so it felt like a real fulcrum point in American history. And at these points, sometimes it's really important to keep pushing, to push through, to really pull back the curtain and see who is operating the machine behind it. And the 1970s sees almost like an extra layer of curtain been put down between the people and those who were in charge, and those who were at the top use this public relations science almost that had started to develop in the in the 1920s and 1930s. You look at Nazi propaganda. The lessons that were used in Nazi propaganda were brought forward and used by less horrible regimes, but they still used the ideas that the Nazis used in trying to control the population. So you begin to see the ramping up of the myth in America that America is a classless society, that nearly everyone in America is middle class, and it's a myth that still exists to this day within America, that everyone's middle class and everyone's just on the verge. You're just on the verge of joining the elite. The idea that the class system is gone and it has been erased is completely without any kind of evidence. If you were to point back to, people point back to the idea of the French Revolution and, the overthrow of the monarchy and the declaration of the rights of man within France, and they would talk about how the aristocracy or the upper class or the second estate, as it was in France, was brought down to its knee. Sure, it was brought back up again under Metternich and the Congress of Vienna in the 1800s, but people would say now there is no aristocracy. But really it's just been, the word has been replaced. There is an elite that exists within the world. There is a massive disparity between those who are at the top and those who are at the bottom, and there is a massive amount of control by those who are at the top. Now, instead of it being lords and nobles and knights, or not so much knights, but the royal family, what you have is corporations and businesses and entrenched families who are able to put, as I think it was John Dewey said, that they are the people who cast the shadow of government. Government is merely the shadow of these people. Um, so this idea, this myth that has been really successfully propagated throughout society, that we are beyond classes now. Well, to beyond classes is a very noble thing and something that we would definitely like to have. It doesn't mirror the reality of the world we live in. We do live in a world with classes. We do live in a world where, if you look at America in particular, there are 40 million people in poverty in a country that is insanely rich, that has such a massive amount of control over the entire world and what goes on in the entire world. Of those 40 million, you have 5 million of them who are living in third world conditions. These are by reports within American agencies themselves, and that 5 million of their people live within third world standards, which is, a shocking fact, really, and really speaks to the fact that there are classes. They may not be called peasants and lower class and middle class and aristocracy anymore, but it does exist. And as the song is pointing out, these people at the top seem to always get preferential treatment. You need to look no further than in this country, where when there was a financial crisis which was caused by banking institutes, it was the banks who got the bailout, and it wasn't the people. The people had to pay for the bailout, and the eviction rates within Ireland have been, absolutely horrendous. The homelessness crisis, which is happening within this country, is directly linked to the banking crisis, which was caused by those at the top. Nobody was brought to task for this. There were some kind of show trials and stuff like that, but ultimately they were able to avoid really taking responsibility for what it was, and the book fell to the people of Ireland, and they have been shouldering that ever since. We've had to live through austerity, we've had to live through a lot of people losing their homes, losing their jobs, people even losing their lives, whereas the people at the top, they get away with it, and there's almost like a different set of rules. The free market almost doesn't exist for those at the top. They're in this kind of free state to, if something goes wrong for them, the state is there to free them or to get them out of trouble. Whereas with anyone below that kind of elite level, you are on your own in these circumstances. You have to fend for yourself. You are swimming in the ocean. It is the free market. So there are this different set of rules, and the song Fortunate Son is really trying to point out that this is a real thing. And just because it's been pointed out doesn't mean that it goes away. We are in an even more divided society now than we've ever been, and we're distracted by, commercialism, but we're also distracted by, stupid, silly divisions among ourselves. Liberal, Democrat, Republican, all these things. Ultimately, I believe what everyone is trying to achieve is they're trying to achieve a form of freedom, and how they achieve that form of freedom is kind of corrupted by the news source that they're getting. The left and the right are just as guilty of really being unquestioning in what they're doing and not pushing forward enough. They're too busy to fight each other, as opposed to actually trying to look at society and what it's like. You look at all the institutions that are around now, and they have become incredibly hard to pin down. And the thing is, the more certain you are of something, certainty is easy if something's vague enough. I think it was something said by William James. I think said that certainty is something that you can be certain of anything if it's vague enough. And capitalism and the banking systems and all these things, they're all very vague and surreptitious in how they operate and stuff like that. So you can go, well, it has to be working. It is working. but the inner workings of it are kind of, obscured and hidden from people, or hidden behind a lot of jargon that is really just put there to divert people's attention away from what's really going on, which is that there is this elite that exists among us, and is getting preferential treatment. So, like I said, it's such an amazing song, a song that brings such energy that really, you can feel the anger in it at this elite that exists. And it's as relevant today as it has ever been. Like all the songs I've looked at so far, I find that they're becoming more and more relevant as we go on. It's like this was the start of the battle, and we've gone about 60 years down the line now from these battles that were taking place then, and we haven't really diverted course. In some ways we have, obviously, but in many ways there's lots more battles to be fought, and lots more anger to be expressed about how society is organised and treated. So I hope you enjoyed my interpretation of Fortunate Son, and what it means, not only what it meant back then, but what it means now. And thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this.